And they're talking about trading the coach.
But the most interesting aspect was the coach swap, because Clark traded Cheryl Reeve, who was the coach of her team, or was to be the coach of her team, to Collier for Sandy Brondello.
No one saw this coming. Not the fans, not the league, and definitely not Cheryl Reeve. In a move that stunned live TV audiences, Caitlin Clark didn't just draft a dream team. She fired her own all-star coach right in the middle of the broadcast.
She picked her friends. She made sure she picked no ops, as people like to call them.
And she did it with a smile. What just happened wasn't a draft pick. It was a statement. Clark is officially in charge now. While the cameras rolled and fans debated who would get picked next, Caitlin Clark quietly pulled off one of the boldest power moves in WNBA history.
But I think we've already discussed we are going to trade coaches. He's going to take her coach, Sandy Brondello.
She traded her coach. Yes, you heard that right. Instead of swapping players, Clark swapped Minnesota Lynx coach Cheryl Reeve for New York Liberty's championship-winning coach Sandy Brondello.
Napheesa Collier was supposed to be coached by New York Liberty head coach Sandy Brondello. They swapped coaches.
But this wasn't just a playful draft day stunt. This was personal. Clark locked eyes with Napheesa Collier and casually announced, "I don't know if this is in rules, but we already discussed we're going to trade coaches."
Of course, Reeve is Collier's head coach for the Minnesota Lynx, so that makes sense. But the drama is going to come from...
No hesitation. No second guessing. Clark seized control of her all-star destiny. And with that one move, sent a message loud and clear. She's done playing nice with anyone who doubts her.
Dell was like, oh yeah, this is good. This is good. This is good. So wait, Caitlin Clark had Chrissy Sides, who never let her.
But that wasn't the whole story. This wasn't some random decision or playful draft day chaos. The tension between Caitlin Clark and Cheryl Reeve had been simmering for months, maybe longer. Reeve, a respected veteran coach, had become one of Clark's loudest critics. While Clark shattered records and fueled a surge in WNBA viewership, Reeve fired off thinly veiled shots, tweeting about the league being more than one player, dodging questions about Clark's Olympic snub, even as she helped select the Team USA roster. Fans noticed. Clark noticed. And despite staying quiet publicly, she didn't forget. The All-Star game gave her the perfect moment to finally flip the script. This was Clark's way of saying, "I see what you did, and now I'm in control." And what happened next would shock everyone watching. The ESPN set fell into stunned silence as Caitlin Clark casually dropped the bombshell. Right there, live, with cameras rolling. She didn't ask for permission. She didn't check the rule book. She just made it happen. "We're going to trade coaches," she said with a grin that said everything. Napheesa Collier played along perfectly, adding a playful jab. "That was a bad move on your part, Caitlin. We got the chemistry now." The exchange felt lighthearted on the surface, but everyone watching knew this was much deeper than a fun draft moment. This was Clark turning the page, seizing the spotlight, and reshaping her narrative on her own terms. Fans lit up social media instantly. "Caitlin just fired Cheryl on national TV, and I'm here for it." Another fan wrote, "She doesn't forget, and she doesn't forgive." The message was clear. Caitlin Clark isn't just the future of the league. She's calling the shots right now. But this was only the beginning of Clark's all-star master plan. While most captains balance talent and chemistry, Clark took a different approach, and it was brilliant. She built her all-star roster like a fortress. No ops, no rivals, no critics allowed. If a player had ever tweeted shade, criticized her in interviews, or crossed her in competition, off the list. Instead, Clark surrounded herself with friends, allies, and proven winners, players who had her back on and off the court. She picked Aaliyah Boston first overall, her Indiana Fever teammate and partner in the paint. Then came Kelsey Mitchell, another Fever star. The message was unmistakable. Clark rewards loyalty, and she's going to battle with people she trusts. Her roster read like a super team blueprint. Sabrina Ionescu, Sada Sabauli, Aya Wilson, all elite talents, but more importantly, all players who bring positive energy and championship mentality. This wasn't just a team built to win. It was a team built to protect her space, eliminate drama, and send a warning to anyone thinking about challenging her. And the next move? That's where things got even more calculated. On the surface, the coach swap looked like a playful draft stunt. But beneath the laughs and headlines, Clark was making a statement far deeper than anyone expected. This wasn't about just replacing a coach. It was about reclaiming control. For months, Clark endured passive-aggressive criticism from Cheryl Reeve, subtle digs, dismissive comments, and most glaringly, the Olympic snub that left Clark off the Team USA roster under Reeve's leadership. So when Clark smiled into the ESPN cameras and traded Reeve for Sandy Brondello, she wasn't just changing coaches. She was flipping the power dynamic. The coach who had once controlled Clark's Olympic fate was suddenly dismissed, live on national television, by the very player she tried to diminish. And what did Clark do next? She didn't gloat or stir up controversy. She simply upgraded. Brondello isn't just any coach. She's a proven winner, fresh off back-to-back WNBA finals appearances with the New York Liberty. Clark was telling the world, "I'm done with negativity. I'm done with politics. I'm here to win." And the reaction? That's when things truly exploded. The moment the trade happened, fans didn't just notice, they erupted. Social media caught fire almost instantly. Comments poured in like, "Caitlin just fired Cheryl Reeve on live TV. Legendary." And this is exactly why Clark is different. She's setting the rules now. Clark supporters saw right through the playful surface and understood what this really was: payback, power, and precision. They celebrated her confidence, calling her a boss, and praising her for taking charge of her narrative. Memes flew across timelines. Free smoke. Free smoke. And Clark wants all the smoke, bro. Meanwhile, Reeve's defenders scrambled to defend her position, but it was too late. The optics were clear. The league's biggest star had just publicly dismissed a veteran coach who tried to diminish her. This wasn't just a fun all-star draft moment. It was a shift in momentum, with Clark cementing herself as the face of a new era in women's basketball. And as if that wasn't enough, Clark's stacked roster made an even louder statement. If Clark's coach trade shook the league, her draft picks sealed the deal. She wasn't just here for headlines. She was here to dominate. Her starting five alone looked like an all-WNBA dream team. Caitlin Clark running point with her elite court vision. Sabrina Ionescu at shooting guard ready to light it up from deep. Sada Sabali on the wing bringing versatility. Aya Wilson, a three-time MVP, anchoring the front court. And Aaliyah Boston holding down the paint. But it didn't stop there. Her bench was just as stacked, featuring Kelsey Mitchell's clutch scoring, Gabby Williams' hustle and defensive intensity, Jackie Young's playoff experience, and Sonia Citron's youthful energy. Clark even made sure to lock in her Indiana Fever teammates early, drafting Boston and Mitchell first to reinforce loyalty and chemistry. This roster wasn't just good. It was built to run, shoot, defend, and play fast-paced, exciting basketball that would overwhelm the competition. Every pick reflected Clark's vision, elite talent, positive energy, and a hunger to win. With Sandy Brondello coaching, this wasn't just an all-star team. This was a statement team, designed not just to compete, but to dominate and prove a point. And as the dust settled, the larger message behind Clark's moves became crystal clear. What Caitlin Clark did at the All-Star Draft wasn't just about building a strong team or swapping coaches for fun. It was about control, power, and respect. For months, Clark had endured criticism, backhanded compliments, and attempts to downplay her influence on the league. She stayed professional, never lashing out publicly, but she remembered every slight. The All-Star Draft gave her a perfect platform to flip the script, and she did it with style. By trading Cheryl Reeve, a coach who had openly minimized her achievements, Clark sent an unmistakable message. She's not here to play along with old narratives or appease critics. She's here to lead, to win, and to surround herself with people who believe in her vision. And this isn't just about one game. This was the start of Clark's power era, an era where she controls not just what happens on the court, but how her story is told. The coach swap was surgical. The roster picks were brilliant. The reactions from fans, players, and coaches alike proved it. Caitlin Clark isn't waiting for anyone's approval anymore. She's building her own empire her way. And as the All-Star game approaches, one thing is certain. This is just the beginning. long before Caitlin Clark sat in front of ESPN cameras and announced the coach swap. The seeds for this power play were planted during one of the most talked about controversies in women's basketball, the 2024 Olympic snub. Cheryl Reeve, as head coach of Team USA, was a central figure in that decision. But it wasn't just the omission itself that stung. It was how Reeve handled it. She sidestepped questions about Clark, dodging direct answers with vague comments about roster balance. Then came the subtle digs. Her infamous post, "The W is more than one player," felt like a direct shot at Clark, just as the young star was driving historic ratings and bringing new eyes to the league. Clark, publicly, took the high road, never sparring with Reeve or fanning the flames. But behind that composure, she didn't forget, and she definitely didn't forgive. The All-Star draft gave her a rare chance for public retribution without saying a word. When Clark casually traded Reeve away, laughing and not even pretending to ask permission, it was clear this wasn't just about fun. It was the perfect, subtle but cutting answer to months of disrespect. She didn't need to tweet back or hold a press conference. Her actions said it all. For fans paying attention, this wasn't a surprise. They saw it as justice. The same coach who left Clark off Team USA would now watch from the sidelines, no longer in charge of Clark, no longer able to shape her narrative. The All-Star Game, an event meant to celebrate the best of the league, suddenly became a stage for Clark's own redemption arc. And it started with Reeve getting traded live, in front of everyone. While much of the focus was on Clark's coach trade, the draft itself was a masterclass in strategy and gamesmanship, and viewers could feel the tension between Clark and fellow captain Nafisa Collier. Every pick felt deliberate, every move filled with layers of meaning. This wasn't just about assembling talent. This was chess between two players who knew exactly what they were doing. At one point, there were murmurs that Clark might flip Sada Sabali for Breanna Stewart, adding more championship DNA to her already stacked roster. But Collier saw through that plan immediately and countered with a tougher offer, Boston for Stewart. Clark smiled and shut it down instantly, knowing she wasn't about to give up her Indiana Fever running mate, not even for Stewie. Throughout the draft, their interactions kept fans glued to their screens. The way they negotiated, smiled, joked, and subtly tried to outmaneuver each other wasn't just entertaining. It revealed the mindset of two athletes who think like GMs as much as they play like stars. But while Collier drafted for balance and versatility, Clark drafted for chemistry and control. She wanted teammates who already had her trust, who knew how to play alongside her, and, maybe most importantly, who weren't associated with any past negativity or drama. This wasn't a typical draft. It was a carefully curated statement about loyalty and cohesion. Every pick, every smile, every comment reflected deeper strategy, and it all came together under Clark's cool, confident leadership. Even as Collier joked that the coach trade was a bad move, Clark knew she'd already won the first battle before the game even started. Sandy Brondello's name might not dominate highlight reels, but real basketball heads know. She's one of the most respected tacticians in women's basketball. A former WNBA player herself, she's coached at the highest levels, leading the Phoenix Mercury to a championship in 2014 and recently guiding the New York Liberty to back-to-back finals appearances. Her approach as a coach is exactly what Clark was looking for: calm, strategic, and supportive. Brondello has a reputation for empowering stars, giving them offensive freedom while building systems that maximize chemistry. She's navigated locker rooms filled with elite egos and found ways to turn groups of individual stars into true teams. For Clark, who spent months dealing with criticism, politics, and backhanded comments from league veterans and media alike, this was the perfect upgrade. It wasn't just about getting rid of Reeve. It was about bringing in a coach who understands what it takes to elevate talent without trying to diminish or control it. Brondello's personality is also key. Laid back, positive, and fun. Her reaction to the trade said it all, laughing when her son texted, "You got traded, Mom," and immediately embracing the moment with humor and grace. That's exactly the kind of energy Clark wanted around her all-star squad. No negativity, no unnecessary tension, just mutual respect and a shared desire to win. Clark isn't just building a winning roster on the floor, she's building a winning environment. And in Brondello, She found a partner who can bring out the best in both her and her star-studded team. While many coaches might have bristled at being traded live on national TV, Brondello handled it perfectly, and her reaction showed why Clark chose her. When her teenage son texted her mid-draft to say, "Mom, you got traded," Brondello didn't panic or feel slighted. Instead, she laughed, took it in stride, and immediately embraced the moment as historic and fun. In interviews after the draft, she smiled and said, "I guess I just created history. This is awesome. We'll go out there and have fun." That simple, authentic reaction told fans and players everything they needed to know about her coaching style. Relaxed but serious, fun but focused, and able to adapt in any situation. That's the kind of energy Clark wants surrounding her team. A coach who's confident enough not to let pride get in the way of performance. Brondello's willingness to embrace this unusual situation also mirrors Clark's attitude. Don't get bogged down by tradition or rules that don't matter. Find ways to win, enjoy the process, and do it with people who are aligned with your mindset. This whole episode made one thing clear. Brondello is exactly the right coach for this moment, and Clark knew it from the jump. Where Cheryl Reeve represented an old-school mentality, Brondello represents flexibility, support, and championship experience. And that's precisely the energy Clark is curating on her team. When it came time for Clark to draft players, she sent another strong message. This roster would reflect her personality and philosophy. No drama, no ops, and no fake alliances. She didn't just draft stars. She drafted people she trusted. That meant rookies like Kiki Iriefin and Sonia Citron. Fresh faces who haven't been part of the media-driven drama around Clark's rise. It also meant players like Aya Wilson, Sabrina Ionescu, and Sada Sabali. Established stars who play hard, play fast, and don't get caught up in petty narratives. Notably absent from a roster, rival Angel Reese, whose relationship with Clark has been the subject of endless debate and clickbait. Clark could have drafted Reese, fueling drama and drawing more headlines, but she didn't. Instead, she chose chemistry over controversy, loyalty over spectacle. This wasn't just smart team building. It was strategic reputation management. Clark is shaping the narrative as much as she's shaping her team. Every pick reflected her understanding of who she wants around her. Winners, loyal teammates, and players who will contribute without distraction. By assembling this roster, Clark made another statement. The All-Star game might be entertainment for fans, but for her, it's also an opportunity to create an environment of respect, trust, and mutual support, something she's clearly valuing after a rookie season full of outside noise. The internet absolutely lost its mind the moment Clark pulled off the coach trade. Memes appeared within minutes. Caitlin just fired Reeve legendary. Free smoke. Free smoke. And gifs of Clark laughing during the trade announcement circulated widely. On X, formerly Twitter, Clark coach trade trended within minutes, with thousands of posts dissecting every facial expression, every laugh, and every detail of the moment. TikTok creators immediately jumped on the trend, cutting together clips of Clark's smirk with music overlays and captions like, "This is the moment Caitlin Clark became that girl." Even on Reddit, the discourse was fast and furious. One top comment summarized the vibe perfectly. "The coach trade makes sense. Clark isn't here for the drama. She's here for chemistry." Another Redditor chimed in. "This was legendary TV. First time I've ever seen a player draft and fire their coach on the same day." The memification of the moment ensured that it wouldn't just live on in WNBA highlight reels. It became part of internet culture instantly. And that's another way Clark is changing the game. She understands the importance of the moment beyond basketball. She didn't just make a bold move on draft night. She created a viral moment that kept fans buzzing long after the draft ended. Every move Clark made during this draft was calculated, not just to win one game, but to send a message about how she views team building. She wasn't simply picking names from a list of all-stars. She was building a unit. Look at the composition of her roster. Championship pedigree with Wilson, Ionescu, and Sabali. Deep chemistry with fever teammates Boston and Mitchell. Youthful energy from rookies Citron and Iriefin. And defensive grit with Gabby Williams and Jackie Young. More importantly, all of these players bring a reputation for professionalism, work ethic, and team-first mentality. Exactly what Clark wants. This team won't just play hard, they'll play together. It's a reflection of Clark's leadership off the court. She's not only making history with her play, she's setting an example for what a modern WNBA superstar should look like. A player who takes full responsibility for the team culture around her. And with Sandy Brondello at the helm, this team is perfectly positioned to thrive. Brondello's coaching philosophy matches Clark's vision exactly. Fluid offense, unselfish play, and a focus on chemistry as the foundation for success. Caitlin Clark didn't just draft a team, she drafted her future. The coach swap, the perfectly curated roster, and the confidence with which she took charge of the entire event sent a message the entire WNBA, and every viewer watching, could hear loud and clear. Clark is done being disrespected, underestimated, or treated like a rookie who needs to wait her turn. This All-Star game on July 19th won't just be a showcase of talent. It'll be a showcase of what happens when a superstar fully embraces her power. With Sandy Brondello on the sideline and a stacked lineup of elite players who trust and respect her, Clark's team is poised to dominate. And while Cheryl Reeve sits across the court coaching the opposing side, she'll no doubt be reflecting on what just happened. A generational star, once overlooked and criticized, took complete control of her narrative, live on national TV, and reshaped the future of the league in a single afternoon. This wasn't just a clever draft move. This was a warning to anyone still doubting her. Caitlin Clark isn't here to follow the old rules. She's here to set new ones. And the league better keep up.